do like the first couple of sessions and do like
Hi everyone! Hello. If anyone hasn't got a seat, do grab a seat. If anyone hasn't had a drink, do feel that you can come up and grab drinks at any point. My name's Jasmine. I'm the Wave Project Coordinator for North Devon. Thanks all so much for coming this evening. Thank you for kind of coming out and gathering with us to hear a little bit more about what we've been doing with the Wave Project in North Devon and also sort of wider across the country as well. And also to hear a bit more about what we're hoping for in the future as well, again in North Devon and across the whole of the charity. So I'm the Wave Project Coordinator for North Devon, and what that means is that I work with surf schools, I work with lots of lovely volunteers, some of whom are in the room. I work with the families and children themselves who are needing some support, and I kind of bring all of those people together, hopefully in the right place at the right time. And then if I've done my job well, I just get to watch the magic happen at the sessions themselves. So I'm kind of one of the local staff here, and Ian is also in the room as well, who many of you will know, who is the adaptive surfing lead for the whole of the charity. So we kind of make everything happen here in North Devon, but also in the context of the whole charity that operates surf therapy across the UK, including Northern Ireland and Scotland. So we're part of this wider surf therapy family, which again is part of an even wider surf therapy family, as Wave Project was one of the founding members of the International Surf Therapy Organisation, which obviously operates across the entire globe. So this evening, just a little bit of boring stuff from me to begin with before we move on to the much more exciting speakers. We'll start off, just by kind of saying thank you to Saltrock, who of course are hosting us here this evening, and throughout the coming months we'll be hosting the Wave Project in lots of different venues again across the UK. So thank you, Saltrock, not just for now and today, but for all the work that's going in behind the scenes to make this happen, and their sort of continued support and partnership with us, which helps us to deliver our surf therapy service and offerings. Also Days Brewery, who have kindly supported us with their sort of refreshments, so do help yourself or take one for the road if you fancy it at the end. Another sort of couple of boring housekeeping bits. The first one is to say that some of the information that is shared this evening with you guys is really sensitive and really personal, sort of stories of the people who've come through our project, come through our service. So it's really important to us that you don't film and you don't kind of share any photos or anything like that from this evening, if that's okay. Another couple of bits just to say, if you did need the toilets are behind the screen, there's a door, and then you head down the corridor and the toilets are on your left. And if there were to be a fire alarm, our nearest fire exit is where you just came in through the double doors there. I'm really, really glad that this evening we've got some lovely speakers, so what you can expect is to hear from two of our lovely speakers in conversation. So we've got big wave surfer Andrew Cotton, who I will introduce a little bit more in a moment, and we've also got one of our ex-surf therapy participants, Liam, who's going to be joining us as well. And then the main part of the sort of this evening will be from Joe, our CEO, who's joining us as well. So just a little bit as well to say that throughout this last week we've had a really exciting project working with Saltrock, where they've been making a film about the project and about what we do here in North Devon. So it's not shareable yet, but we've got a lovely team who are editing and putting it together sort of in this next few days, so that will be shared, and that's part of what we're doing here this evening as well. So that's something to look out for. So if it's okay, if I can invite Cotty and Liam to come up and just share a little bit. This is going to be pretty informal.
Oh, okay.
So it's just going to be me asking you questions.
Yeah.
And I've written them in a really lopsided kind of way, so sorry in advance if I struggle to read my own writing.
Yeah.
So obviously we've got Cotty and Liam here. I'm just going to start by kind of threading together their stories a little bit. So Liam, you were a surf therapy participant.
Yeah.
We think it was in 2014 or 15.
Yeah.
When you were about 12 or 13.
Exactly.
I wondered if you could tell me a little bit about what your life was like then, when you were that age.
So at the time, I was struggling quite a bit in school. I was really shy. I often got angry as well, and there's a few troubles at home. So I kind of didn't feel like I had anywhere that was like really comfortable.
Yeah. Cool.
Before the project.
And where are you based? Are you North Devon based?
So yeah, I'm North Devon, but only just. I mean, Cholmondeley's like 50 minutes away.
Cool.
So it's a bit of a trek to get here.
So going to the beach was a regular thing for you at the time?
It
or
was
not so
like a thing we did on birthdays, but it's not super accessible.
much? Okay, cool.
So, yeah.
Thank you. And Cotty, sorry, I'm like taking us way back to 2015, but what had life been like for you in those years running up to that? What had you been up to?
I'd been lifeguarding for the Iron Line on the beach. And so I was actually qualified, I still have my beach lifeguard certificate, but I'd just finished working, and I was sort of taking my surfing, onto more full time, but which enabled me to have a bit more time during the summer. And I think it's actually when your dad reached out to me and asked if I had some time to do some volunteering.
Great, thank you. So Liam, you were kind of booked onto one of the surf therapy courses, one of our 6-week blocks. I wondered if you could tell us what that was like for you. Like, what do you remember of it? What was the first week like?
Yeah, so I remember I was like super excited about the idea of it. I think I'd had one surf lesson before with school, and then I remember being shy, not really knowing what to expect. I hadn't been in the water too much, but like as soon as I got in the water and you realise like, what you're there to do, it's just all you focus on and you just trying to make the most of it.
Cool. So the thing that we've realised all meeting together this evening before you guys came in is that there was a connection, which is that on one of the weeks, Cotty actually came to the same session, right?
Yeah, I was volunteer.
So tell us a little bit more about sort of, you got roped in by Ian, classic, happens to everyone. But what was sort of your experience of the Wave Project? And how was that for you?
For me, it's an opportunity to share passion with the ocean. I've been really fortunate to grow up in North Devon, surf life saving clubs, swimming clubs, surfing a lot, and to share my experience of time in the water with people that or children or people that didn't have that opportunity was awesome. I think it was like it's amazing to be able to give, but the what you get back from that felt really good too. So yeah, it was really good.
Super cool. So obviously you were like already an elite waterman at that point.
I wouldn't say elite, no.
But you didn't come from a background sort of working with children or in education or health or anything like that?
No, this is actually my first experience of that. I'd done, obviously, I'd come from, like life saving, and I spent a lot of time on the beach, lifeguarding. I'd done the odd surf lesson, but it wasn't really, I had no experience in it. But I think it was, for me, like it wasn't really, it was, again, it was like an opportunity to just share a passion, and it was about like making the kids stoked and pushing Liam into waves, giving a bit of encouragement, and the feedback that feedback you get from that was good, really good.
So Liam, what was your experience? Do you remember that session?
Yeah, absolutely.
You showed me a photo actually.
Yeah, I mean, I remember like watching videos of yourself, big wave surfing. I felt like, what a legend. So like,
when you met me,
no. So yeah, I was stoked. I always enjoyed getting in the water, and then like to get advice from someone who knows what they're doing. That was like, that was really rewarding for sure.
Sorry, Liam, I'm coming to you again.
Okay.
So obviously you had that 6-week block. You got to meet, not just any surf mentor. Sorry, surf mentors in the audience, but the surf mentor who surfed all the hugest waves in the world. I wondered what your experience has been sort of after the Wave Project. What the impact has been on you of sort of doing that 6-week block, and then you stayed on as well, didn't you?
Yeah. So I mean, like surfing, like after getting into surfing through the Wave Project, that like pretty early on I realised that's what I wanted to do. I wanted to make whatever I did, like with my work, hobbies, even just like a form of exercise, that I want to be surfing. And then I got the opportunity to volunteer afterwards. That was great. I did a couple of 6-week sessions, and I think like you touched upon it, it's like almost as satisfying to get somebody else doing that with you as it is to do the Wave Project, and to see someone go from like, you almost see yourself in them. Being shy, I remember we had one lad who lived about half an hour away, and he hadn't really seen the water that much. He'd never been surfing. He was quite scared just to get his feet in the water even. But then after a few sessions, he's getting so into it, and it's like you know how that feels. You know that excitement. But yeah, super rewarding.
And can you tell us a little bit more about what you're doing now? Like, because like you said, your work is connected to the water now.
Yeah.
What you're hoping to do.
Yeah. So I work up here so that I can get in the water as much as possible. I've got my surfing instructor exam booked next month, and then afterwards we'll start at Surfing Quad Bay. So. Yeah, can't wait.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Thanks so much, guys, and for sharing like your connection, that funny from how many years ago connection and story. We're really grateful for you coming tonight. Thanks so much.
Thank you.
So I'd now love to introduce Joe, who will speak for about 40 minutes, and then there'll be a bit of an opportunity at the end of that as well for some questions. So if you've got anything, hold on to it and Joe will answer at the end.
Thanks,
It's so lovely to see you.
Thank you. Hi everyone, nice to meet you all. Kill those guys, good. Brilliant. Yeah, really honoured and pleased to be here in North Devon with you guys. I know that you're all Wave Project supporters, which is why you're here, and it's just lovely to be here. I'm Joe Taylor, I'm the founder of the charity. Really what I want to talk about tonight is a bit about the charity, where we came from, and some of the rationale behind surf therapy. I know you guys know quite a lot of this stuff already, but it's just helpful to kind of, pack it all into kind of one bite-sized talk. So, that's the sort of first bit of my talk, and the second bit is trying to look at a bit more about where we're hoping to go in the future, and that's kind of where we'll hopefully need your help. So 13 years ago, I was setting up the Wave project in Cornwall. Been involved with a different project actually called Freedom Surf in Newquay, which was really aimed at trying to get disabled children surfing, and I've been doing that for a couple of years. And I had some contacts with the NHS Trust through that back then, and I was speaking to them about, I was really trying to see if they'd give us some more funding to do some more of this work, and the commissioner I was speaking to suggested that perhaps we widened the idea of surf therapy, it wasn't called surf therapy back then, surfing lessons, out more widely into supporting children with mental health issues. Because I think they were noticing at that time that there were some quite emerging trends around mental health. They were seeing more reports of children and young people self-harming. There was more issues around anxiety was becoming more prevalent. And I think the NHS wanted to try and find ways of tackling this. And they were finding that children weren't really engaging with the kind of services that were out there. As you may know, the CAMS service that supports children and young people's mental health tends to focus on children with the most severe problems, but the kind of more emerging issues tend to get not really addressed. So they thought that, well, this surfing thing might be a nice way of trying to help them. And so we set up this pilot scheme in Watergate Bay in Cornwall back in 2010. And to be honest, my own expectations of that weren't that high. I have to be honest. I in the sense that I thought it would be a really nice thing to do for the summer, and it seemed like a good project to get involved in. Actually, at the time, I was thinking of going into teaching. That was my plan, and was pretty set on that. So it's something I can do in the summer. So I've started this pilot scheme. Not really a great surfer myself, as I'm sure Jazz and Ian will tell you. But I do love being in the water, and like Cossie said, have that love for the ocean. But you know, on this pilot scheme, you know, there was two groups of 10 young people, 6-week course, pretty much identical to the structure we have of surf therapy now. And these young people were from mixed services in the NHS in terms of referrals. So, like things like there were some children who'd been self-harming, some were experiencing anxiety, some there was one lad who was experiencing psychosis. So there's kind of a range of issues that they were experiencing, from kind of mild to more severe problems. And you know, almost from the first week, it just seemed just really lovely to be so relaxed, to be on the beach, you know, to be having our toes in the sand, just, you know, and it just became really clear that the whole environment of the, you know, the beach, the water, just lent itself to helping these young people immediately feel like calm and like they wanted to kind of bond and make friends with other people in the group. And I found that something about the structure of a surfing lesson, the kind of routine of it, the reassurance of the surf coaches and lifeguards there, you know, like Liam said, people who know what they're doing, kind of that kind of sense that there's people there who are just going to look after you, and you're going in the water, and you know, but there's someone there to kind of support you. That whole vibe just seemed to kind of lend itself to helping these young people to break down some of their anxiety barriers. But I didn't really get this at the time until it came to kind of the end of the project, the last week, when I was walking back up the beach from the last session. And there was these two people standing on the beach. There was a couple of middle-aged couples standing there, and I could sort of tell they wanted to get my attention. So I sort of went over to them, and they introduced themselves to me as the parents of one of the young people we've been working with. And they said, you know what, this has transformed our son's life. And sorry, even now, 13 years on, it still makes me feel emotional, this moment, because for me, I just couldn't believe it that these people had kind of come up to the beach just to tell me that. And they said that their son had he'd had quite severe anxiety, experienced selective mutism. It's a condition where you don't speak at all. And he'd started speaking again because of the course. He'd started talking to his surf mentor. Something actually I hadn't even realised at the time, but hugely emotional and profound for me. And they said, you know, you've given us him back. You've given us our son back. And it was a moment that changed my life. It changed my life as well, as much as it changed that family's life, because I realised that this was something that I had to do, that had to make this project happen. And, you know, over the next couple of years, that's what I tried to dedicate myself to. Although I'd still kind of thought about teaching, and actually I still intended to become a teacher right up until about 2013, when I'd signed up to do a teacher training course in Taunton, and I was sat there and I was there on the sort of first day, and it was the introductory day, and I had a call on my mobile, and it was a press call because we just got some lottery funding, and they started talking to me about the project that we were launching, and I realised that I was in the wrong place, and I just got up from my teacher training thing I was doing in Taunton, said I've got to go, sorry, got into my car, drove back to Cornwall, and stayed doing the Wave project ever since, and never qualified as a teacher. But But I mean, the reason for that. Oops. Sorry, I'm not massively technical, I'm afraid. This is the problem that the charity is trying to solve, right? I don't know, you might not be able to see that at the back of the room, but there's some stats here about children's mental health. And when you know, as many of you guys will have done, you've worked with children and young people who are experiencing mental health issues. You realise how vital it is that the support is out there for them. But the NHS brought out some figures last year. There's been a shocking increase in the last couple of years around teenage suicides, eating disorders, self-harm. You may know that 1 in 6 young people under 18 have now got a diagnosable mental health issue. 1 in 6. When you think about that in the context of the country, it's hard to get your head around how many children that's affecting. But if you imagine it this way, if you imagine a classroom of kids, any classroom in the country, there might be 30 kids in that classroom. Well, 5 of those kids in any classroom are going to be suffering in some way. Suffering in silence, because mental health is not a condition that is very visible. Often not knowing what help is available to them or even where to go for it. And this is the problem that we're facing. This is what we're trying to do something about. We also know that half of all mental health problems are diagnosed before the age of 14 and 3/4 before the age of 24. So clearly, if we can help address some of those things, those problems in children and young people, we're hopefully reducing the risk of more serious problems developing later on and tackling the problems that they have. And, once you get over the age of 24, it becomes more and more difficult to really to have long-lasting improvements to mental health issues. But we know that actually the good news is that if you can reach younger people and with an intervention that works, actually you can transform their life. Like Liam was just explaining with his story, and this young lad on the beach on the pilot scheme and hundreds of others. It does make a really measurable difference. This document here is our theory of change as a charity. I'm sorry it's quite small and you might not be able to read it at the back, but essentially, those points are really captured here. Our mission, which is on the left-hand side on the beach there, is to improve the emotional well-being of young people. And our approach is threefold. The 3 components are the fun of surfing, this culture of support and acceptance, these kind volunteers who've always got time for these young people, and the whole idea of exploring the sea and the outdoor environment. And what we've observed through evaluation and data gathering over the years is kind of what those things actually mean to the young people and what we do to create those kind of outcomes. So surfing's super fun, but we need to allow these young people to learn at their own pace, not rush them or push them to do things they don't want to do. And by doing that, they learn to try again. Doesn't matter if they don't get it right first time. Doesn't matter if you fall off. You have another go, and that builds resilience, like with Jake, builds determination, and the impact of that is that these young people are emotionally stronger. And this whole culture of support piece, the stuff that our volunteer surf mentors do week in, week out, so important. These are young people who often don't feel accepted by anyone. So on our sessions, they're always praised for what they do and accepted for who they are. So they feel safe, and because of that, they build self-esteem. And through that comes new friendships and new relationships. And creating new relationships is the absolute goal for improving young people's mental health and well-being. And finally, the sea. Crotty said about the love of the ocean, and it's a big part of what Salt Rock are all about as well. Something amazing about being in the sea, being outdoors, being away from all of your problems, just escaping everything. Helps you to feel calmer, that feeling that you get when you get out of the water after a surf and you're just feeling just calm and just kind of good in yourself and you're happy to be alive, less anxious, more curious about their environment. And what we found is that this opens young people up to the idea of learning more in general. Jake's mum mentioned about how Jake was doing better at school after doing surf therapy. That's partly because we find that young people just are kind of more curious about what they can and can't do. When they've learned to surf or learned to catch a couple of waves, they think, well, what else could I do? They learn to love the outdoor environment and love the sea. And this next slide is a bit dry, but it's kind of, this shows the percentage change to client well-being. So that sounds really jargony, I'm sorry about that, but I just wanted to kind of introduce you to this. Just shows how we try to measure this in practice, because we've heard some really moving case studies about how this has affected these individual young people. But what this is showing is each of these bars is represents a year. So the darker blue colours are from 2020, white is 2021, and pale blue is 2022. And basically it's showing a percentage change from pre and post scores on a self-evaluation that each young person has done. Those of you who've surf mentored with us might be familiar with the questionnaires the young people have to fill in before and after the courses. That's important to us because then we can measure what the impact is. But we can see that these well-being measures here, which we know from the questions they've been answering, are improving pretty consistently. So this is, there's 1,471 children over these 3 years who've completed these questionnaires. And we're seeing, positive effect, which is basically their outlook, how they react to things, how much they laugh and smile, that kind of stuff, is improving between 10 and 13%. Self-esteem, 6% in 2020, 10% 2021, 2022, and so on. They're feeling calmer, trust, confidence, and resilience all improving. So we can sort of see over quite a big data set, these courses, the work that you guys are doing, that our volunteer surf mentors are doing all over the country, is having this really meaningful impact on these children and young people. And so I think that can give us confidence that actually what is quite a simple intervention like surf therapy and surf club can make this really profound difference. And so I think what we want to do is we want to do more of this. But I think we want to do it more, and we also want to do it well. So I just want to have a quick touch on the charity's values, because I think as we move forward as a charity and grow and develop and hopefully reach more young people and change more lives, these are the things. These values need to stay constant. Things will change. The people involved in the Wave Project will change over time, but our values shouldn't change. And I just want to kind of just touch on them with you. Some of you might have seen these values before, but we have 4 of them. So the first one is professionalism, and you can do a whole talk on professionalism and what that means to different people. But for us, it means putting our beneficiaries' needs first. I saw a great example of this actually during COVID when, the Wave Project was one of the few organisations that was still able to support young people because we were able to do it outside, and all the youth clubs and everything closed. But some of our staff were out on the beach in that January in 2021, cold. You may remember this, Jazz.
It's no.
Cold weather. No PPE. Didn't really know what the risks were, but they showed that incredible professionalism to get out there. Some of you guys may have been part of this as well, to support these young people. It was a great example of that. And that's what we always need to be able to do. We've always got to go the extra mile, like Jake's mum said, to put young people first. Empathy is our second value, core value. And for us, that means making a genuine effort to support each other. Supporting the young people on the beach, and as a team, supporting each other, as volunteers, as staff. As a manager, I need to always be thinking about trying to take an empathetic approach, if I can, to any decisions. So throughout the charity. Inclusion, I'm sorry you can't probably see that very well, but it says we actively seek to include everyone in our work. My own, as I just explained, my own starting journey in this was trying to include disabled children in surfing. Ian has done incredible work here in North Devon around, really bringing forward and making more professional our adaptive surfing program. And a quick plug, if you weren't already aware, that we're opening the first ever adaptive surfing hub in partnership with Surfing England and Surf Southwest on Friday over in Croyd. So if you are able to pop over in the morning to Surf Southwest for that, we'd be delighted to see you down there. It's a great achievement, and maybe a quick round of applause actually for Ian and all his work. But it's always meant a lot to us and been very important as a charity that surf therapy should be for everyone. If we can get someone on a board to benefit from it, then we should. And then just finally, integrity. We're always honest and truthful. I think, we operate all around the country, from the west of Cornwall at Sennen right up to the east coast of Scotland and Northern Ireland, everywhere in between. And we've got to trust, our people that they're going to adopt these values. And something I say quite often to our trustees is, the whole charity is built on trust, really. We've got to trust that people are doing a good job. We've got to trust our volunteers in the water. We've got to trust our surf coaches. We've got to trust each other. And I really wanted just to sort of dwell on this slide a bit because, one thing I really want everyone, I hope, to take away from today is, please keep these values in mind as you continue to support our work. So, what is our goal as a charity, and what do we want to do next? And this is the next part of this talk, really. So I guess what we've learned is, our approach works. As a charity, our purpose is to improve the mental health and well-being of young people. And we do it by harnessing the power of community surfing and open water, because that reflects our theory of change. And our vision, what we'd love to see, is that all young people in the UK have the opportunity to access surf therapy as part of their statutory support to improve their mental health and well-being. That's probably a long-term goal. We're quite a long way from that goal now. But you know what? If you said to me 13 years ago, Joe, in 13 years' time, you'll be doing a tour around the country, talking to hundreds of volunteers and people involved in the charity and helping thousands of kids, I probably wouldn't have believed that was possible. So one thing I've learned is that anything is possible. If you can get the right people involved and good people doing stuff, anything is possible, and we can do it. We can get more young people in the water and doing surf therapy. So that's what we want to aim to do. But the charity has signed off a 4-year strategy that's not quite as ambitious as getting every young person having access to surf therapy, but we certainly want to reach a lot of them if we can. So you may recognise that. I think that was taken in this neck of the woods somewhere, that picture. So by 2027, we have a plan to really grow our work and try and reach more young people. We want to help more young people. We know that, as we've heard several times tonight, getting in the water, getting them on the board, being around a supportive community genuinely helps them. It tackles a serious problem, so let's do more of it. We want to reach 15,000 young people by 2027 in the UK. It's an ambitious target. At the moment, we're supporting about 2,000 a year UK-wide. So it's a big jump, and we need your help to do that, and I'll be talking more about that in a minute. But we need to make sure as well, and this has come out a lot from our staff conversations, that the work we do is good quality, that it's actually well evidenced, that we don't start diluting the quality of what we do by trying to do too much at once. So we need to make sure that we're following our values, we're following our theory of change to do things really well. Sustainability is really important to us, as it is, I know, to many of you as well. We need to be both financially and environmentally sustainable. In 2021, the charity nearly ran out of money because, my bad, I'm the CEO, but took the decision to really try and tackle the post-pandemic problems, and we took on more staff than we could really afford, and it turned into a bit of a nightmare, but internally, although we did support a lot of children and young people. And I think our learning from that is we need to make sure that what we're doing is financially sustainable ongoing, so we don't end up endangering the whole charity's operations by not having enough money to do our work. And we need to try to be environmentally sustainable as well, finding ways we can reduce our impact on the environment. And at the moment, actually, we're working on a new environmental strategy, which I'm hoping to unveil later in the year. And then the final point is that everything has to be safe. The sea, as we all know, it can be dangerous. We're working with very vulnerable people. We need to keep each other safe. So we need to have, we need to not put people at unnecessary risk. But safety needs to be both physical and emotional for us. The environments we create for children and young people on the beach and in the sea need to be safe for them. They need to feel they can speak out if they want to. If they don't feel safe, they need to be able to tell someone. So those are our priorities. And what we want to achieve, this is just kind of the same thing in a bit more detail, really. How are we going to reach these 15,000 young people? Well, we need to work with partners. We need to work in partnership with the surf industry, with wave pools, with volunteers, with our surf therapy community that, as Jazz beautifully put it at the beginning of the talk. We know that we need to try and probably open up more locations. We've got 16 at the moment in the UK. We're hoping to open more and have more of a geographical spread across the country. And we're also exploring SUP therapy at the moment, stand-up paddleboard therapy. We did a really interesting pilot last year in Exeter, which has been really successful, and we're hoping to explore more of that. But getting back to our priorities, we need to make sure it's evidence-based and works well. We need to make sure the work we're doing is effective, and referrals. Our referral pathway has been the bugbear of our staff team for years, and we're trying to find ways of making it smoother, trying to enable teachers, social workers, people who work in the NHS, anyone working with young people to be able to refer easily into our service, and then to be able to work quickly with those young people. A few years ago, we had enormously long waiting lists because our referral pathway was too open, and we recognised that a child waiting 2 years to do surf therapy isn't really helping them. You know, they're just on another waiting list. So we want to try and keep our waiting lists down, and getting that balance is quite difficult to get right, but we're doing our best. We need to make sure as a charity, from the trustees down, that we're resourcing our sessions properly, people are properly trained. I know it's an area that Ian has led on a lot with the work around disability surfing and adaptive surfing that he's been doing. But overall, you know, we need to invest more in training of our staff and volunteers. And evidence, you know, continue to monitor the effectiveness of our programs. I'm really hoping that we've been talking to Cambridge University for the last couple of years about doing a really big study on surf therapy, and we keep getting tantalisingly close to the line of this being launched, and then something happens to stop it. But I'm really hoping that this year that will finally get funded and we can get on with it. And I just want to just let you guys know about this as well. So we've talked a lot about surf therapy. There are a couple of other strands to our work too. Most of you know about the adaptive surfing work we do. Internally in the WAVE project, we class adaptive surfing and also our education project, Beach School, as professional programs. And then there's also outreach programs. The difference between professional programs and the others is that professional programs are generally delivered by members of our own staff team, with probably lighter touch volunteer support. So the Beach School project, for example, we employ some teachers who deliver, this at the moment is only in Cornwall, but we're hoping to expand it more widely to other parts of the country. But we employ some teachers to deliver lessons on the beach to children who are at risk of exclusion from school. So that fits into our professional programs strand. The community programs, which is by far our biggest area of work, is stuff that's delivered by volunteers with the support and supervision of staff. So surf therapy and surf club. And then this outreach stuff is kind of quite a new area for the charity, but we're hoping to scale our impact more by cascading our learning through schools. And really the outreach stuff is around coming up with training programs for schools to enable them to deliver outdoor learning projects for children and young people so that they can help improve their well-being, and we can reach more children and young people and hopefully avoid some of these terrible statistics that I touched on at the beginning. And this is my last slide now, and sorry this is quite small again, but these are our strategic objectives by 2027. This is just kind of a breakdown of what they are within those program strands. So essentially, I appreciate you probably can't read those, so I'll just kind of quickly whiz through them. But we want to try and roll out our professional programs, our adaptive and beach school services more widely throughout the UK by that time. Great work happening in adaptive surfing Friday, we're launching the first adaptive surf hub. We're hoping to have another adaptive hub in Cornwall opening later this year. We want to do more work with beach school projects as well in more places in the country. Love to bring a beach school to North Devon. We really want to roll out surf and sup therapy around the country. I think it just works so well, and we just want to do more of it. We want our surf club to be available to everyone. We're looking at making sure that surf clubs are always accessible to disabled as well as non-disabled surfers. And we really love to see more volunteers being able to deliver the surf therapy programs we run. And that's hoping to do that through training and giving people the confidence to be able to do that, to do that on their own, and with the kind of more light touch support of people like Jazz, so that we can just deliver more without Jazz having to be at every session herself. And like I said earlier about partnering with our surf school and wave pool partners like Surf Southwest here in North Devon. The referral pathway bit of the partnership as well is, we want to be working more with local authorities, with NHS services to really get these pathways embedded, just to make it easy for frontline workers to refer without all of the kind of complications that they sometimes come up against. And then the outreach stuff, we're hoping to, by 2027, this is quite ambitious, I don't know whether it will happen or not, but hopefully it will. We're hoping to work with 100 multi-academy trusts around the country, 600 schools, and deliver training programme for them. And like I mentioned, this RCT study with Cambridge may or may not happen at some point, which would be, but I think if it does, that would be a big game changer for the surf therapy worldwide, because we'd have, this really authoritative study telling the world what we already know, which is that surf therapy is amazing and we should be doing more of it. So finally, it's just for me to say that, please come and help us. We can't do this alone. We've got Kelly Slater there. We've got Cotty in the room here. What more motivation can you have? Different ways you can do that. Just popping up on the screen now. Hopefully everyone in the room can do kind of one of these things. If you do work with young people, make a referral to us. Talk to Jazz about that. Doing that here. If you're not already doing it, come and volunteer. We love volunteers, and we need them. If you can afford to donate, we do need money to do our work, and your donations are gratefully received. Leave a gift in your will, fundraise. We also have if you do own a business, we have our business membership project that has just been launched. Our fundraising team was extremely keen for me to include this in the talk today. And over on the counter here, we actually have some leaflets about it. So feel free to take one if you're interested, or if you know someone who might be interested. And by doing that, you can enable us to tackle the problem of children's mental health through surf therapy. So, and I appreciate I've been talking for a long time. I'm extremely grateful for your attention, and thank you for everything you're doing to help us. Happy to take any questions, or you may now turn the lights back on. Whoa!
There's a shoot going in.
Yeah, please do. Yeah.
Did anyone have any questions for Jeff? Oh,
I have actually quite a lot. Sorry, I'm from Barnstable PCN, the GP practices.
Right, yeah.
I've already had a service level agreement, and I will say I've seen some magic. And thanks to these guys as well, real transformational stuff. The service level agreement actually expired, so in terms of funding, I think there's a lot of challenges around some of the health inequalities, but also the cost of living. Mm-hmm. And it's pay by donation at the moment, isn't it? That's the referral sort of process, which is fabulous. But I'm just thinking of how that has been a real challenge for people and could be a challenge in this climate. But also, in terms of future planning, whether or not there's any sort of any ways to have a look at joint funding and using certain policies in practice I know that schools are looking at social prescribing now.
Yeah.
There's the mental health framework. There's all sorts of stuff around neurodiversity. So I won't monopolise this session, but I have got some questions for afterwards.
I mean, to be honest, you're touching on like one of our biggest challenges, really, which is trying to find a way of enabling referral partners to make referrals quickly and easily. But we don't want to be. If we end up swamped with too many referrals, we end up with huge waiting lists and then can't deliver services quickly enough for young people. So the referral agreement is a way of trying to manage that a bit. It doesn't always work quite well. I know.
I will say it's been the most responsive, impactful project within our PCA, within North Devon. And it's been so refreshing because Jazz has always fed back the outcome, and there's always been a positive story and a journey for that child. A lot of people have gone into surf life saving or clubs, and it's been responsive rather than really, really fast early intervention, rather than these waiting lists.
That's great to hear. Thank you. Yeah, well done, guys.
Endorsing because absolutely fabulous.
I mean, and in all honesty, just telling your colleagues about that and letting them know, I mean, is really helpful for us. Thank you very much. Don't be shy. Yeah.
I'm not exactly a surfer, but at the same time, I'd love to volunteer. And it's one of those, are there any other avenues other than surfing that you can volunteer? For example.
I don't surf. I've never been on the board in my life. But I just love being in waves.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, so I don't think I'd ever stand on a board. I just don't have balance. I'm too old. I'm not too old, but just enough.
Yeah,
Yeah.
You can smile and high five.
Yeah, so as you were saying, shackers are obviously essential for every session. And that's mainly what our water training covers. But in seriousness, yeah, if you're happy in the water and you want to get in the sea with us, we offer training that means that you get sort of the basics without needing to learn to surf yourself around how to support somebody in the water. But as Joe's mentioned, there's also lots of opportunity for fundraising. We've got some challenge events coming up this year, and I think still 1 or 2 places left.
I'm not sure there is on the challenge events, but there is other fundraising opportunities.
So yeah, check out the website and find the avenue that works for you if it's not getting in the sea. But if you want to get in the sea, come and join us. It's for everyone.
I think actually on our website now, when you go to the volunteer section, you can actually sign up as different types of volunteers. So I think you can sign up as a fundraising volunteer. I know our head of fundraising, Susie, is also really keen to launch like a volunteer speaker program where she provides some training, and basically that's about going out and just advocating for the charity, talking about it, kind of like I've done tonight, just sort of, which is really great to do as well. So if that's something you feel you could do, I mean, so there's different things you could do. Definitely have a look at the website and have a look.
I've got a question. From the growing the Wave project with the 4-year plan, is it all needs to coordinate? Obviously, as you said, you could open it up and get swamped with people. Is there any particular restriction that's more than others, such as funding or finding sufficient volunteers? You might have the other 2 parts, but you haven't got that. Is there, or is it just sort of all together?
Yeah, I mean, I guess the restrictions we have, the limitations we have are around infrastructure. I mean, we need somewhere to surf from, a surf school partner, or some kind of access to the beach that's reasonably, comfortable for the young people. Is that what you're asking, or like?
Yeah, is it like if you at the moment are you struggling in any particular area? Is it like more to do with funding, or maybe getting volunteers to be able to support? Because the one-to-one, only gone to a few sessions myself. It seems one of the things this charity offers is you've just got time for one child, whereas at another club, the coach might have to go, don't want to do it, you're just going to have to wait there while I try to deal with these.
Yeah, no, you're right. I mean, like, that one-to-one volunteering is so key to what we do. So we always need volunteers, and you know, because without them we can't do anything. I mean, like, you know, that's the whole, you know, I suppose, purpose of the charity. So yeah, you know, if we have the infrastructure, we have some volunteers and a surf school partner, we can deliver a session. I think what we want to do is, we know that we'll have to take on some more staff, but I think our strategy is to try and train up more volunteers, get them more confident to be able to do sessions on their own, you know, with sort of more light touch support from the project coordinator. There, if you need Jazz to help, she can be there, but you know, if we can get more volunteer run sessions, that enables us to be able to deliver more services. So, and we also need to open up more locations. You know, we need to be able to start having more geographical locations. I was chatting to Andrew, was it, earlier, about his challenges of getting here from Woolacombe. You know, sorry, from Westwood High, right? I'm sorry. You know, which can take up to an hour. You know, so like the more locations we can offer nearer to people, the more chance we got of volunteering. So really, it's just about trying to expand all of it, really, and funding. You know, yeah, we always need more funding. You know, we pay our surf coaches. You know, we pay our staff. We do have to buy some equipment. We're actually quite a lean charity when it comes to how we use our funding. I mean, you know, so I won't bore you with the figures, but I mean, I think we get quite a lot of delivery for a relatively small amount of funding. So we do need some funding.
Yeah.
No worries.
Yeah. I'm an occupational therapist, and I know there are lots of schools of occupational therapy and physiotherapy around the country that do research projects, and I know Sheffield Hallam have got a particular research unit where they look at the benefits of different treatment activities, whatever, in improving health outcomes. Have you had any links with any of those sorts of organisations? Not just going for the Cambridge, but also looking at some of the more focused organisations.
Not really. I mean, I did a talk up at Newcastle University a couple of years ago. They've got quite a big OT department, and I did a talk to about 100 OTs. And after that, there's quite a lot of enthusiasm, and they said, "Oh, we should try and do something with you," but then it kind of fizzled out, and nothing really happened. I mean, I think I've generally found with universities, it just takes quite a long time to you know, build in something they really genuinely want to put some time into. We're doing some stuff with Plymouth University on this SUP therapy project we did. They've put one of their PhD students onto looking at the relative benefits of SUP and surf therapy. So we're always open to ideas with stuff like that. And to be honest, the more evidence we can build, the better. You know, so if you've got any suggestions, then please do fire them over.
Thanks. Just in relation to a really good question, I was going to say, just in relation to this, I have got some contacts at Exeter University in Plymouth, and I know you're probably aware of Chill, but we've linked it up with research, and GPs absolutely love impact and sort of outcome-based measuring. It captivates. Sorry, GPs, but it is, and we have a couple of GPs that actually volunteer for this project. So
Right.
I'll give you some contacts.
Thank you. Yeah.
Great. Thank you.
Well, thank you so much, and you know, please do stay in touch. Stay in touch with the project here in North Devon. And thanks very much for coming and giving up your time to listen to me tonight, and also for the charity generally. So we appreciate it.
Thank you. yeah, thanks all so much for coming this evening. Thanks for some really great questions. I've just thought of a couple of other ways, as well as the ways that Jo has already showed you, that you could get involved. So a couple of other things. Obviously, as you can see, it's all part of sort of being this surf therapy community that we create, that means that young people are able to identify as surfers often by the time they finish our 6-week programme or by the time that they leave Surf Club. We might have some parents or carers in the room, or somebody who knows a parent or carer of a child who's struggling. So if you are one of those people, please signpost them to us if you feel like it could suit and you feel like it could help. I know that Sam just mentioned that obviously we're probably at the beginning of a cost of living crisis, so we know that health outcomes will be more and more sort of tricky for those most vulnerable families and most vulnerable communities. So please signpost if you know somebody who might benefit from our service. Also, I think there's probably a lot of these in the room, please be a friendly surfer. Quite often we know people at the sessions, even if you're not in the session with us, if you know, not volunteering, but come and say hi, give a wave to our group, and that's all part of the thing of people feeling really welcome, kids building that confidence, feeling like they're part of the community. So that's a tiny thing, but anyone who's getting in the water or just at the beach, come and say hi to us if you see a session. You'll always be able to spot us because we're wearing really brightly coloured rash vests that say the Wave Project. Just a couple more bits. Sorry, I am going to do this. Ian, could you just come up for a moment and tell us a little bit more about what to expect on Friday? As if you haven't had enough Wave Project in your week already, if anyone wants to come on Friday, we'd love to have you. So this is Ian.
I'll be really, really quick. I'm going surfing on Friday with 5 of my friends. 4 of them are wheelchair users. 1 of them is blind. Okay, and we're going to have a great time. The only reason we can do that is because at Surf Southwest in Foyd, with our collaboration with the Surfing England, we're going to be opening our very first adaptive surfing hub in England. I'm really, really excited about this. I can't believe that it's taken us quite a long time to get there. Worked with lots of other groups, and I think the final piece of the jigsaw happened last week, where we've got this amazing Changing Places unit, which makes changing for anybody really dignified and really just a great place to be. So we're going to open at 10 o'clock. We're going to start off at 10 o'clock. You can come and see our equipment. Then we're going to do an official opening at, I think it's 11 o'clock, no, 10:30. And then we're going to go surfing. What more can I say? Let's just go surfing. If anybody wants to come along, we'd love to see you there. All right?
Thanks. That's really just the end of it. Just thank you all so much for coming. Share the message of the Wave Project with all of your friends and families. I know loads of you are already doing that. And just say, yes, safe travels home. Thank you, everyone. Cheers.